The holiday season is over. The Blazers are on the road. Looking good here, looking bad there. But Anfernee Simons is back, my boy. And we're back. The Blazer Focus podcast took a couple weeks off because Craig was ducking me on holiday break, coming out with his skis. He's shaking his head.
Lies.
He was ducking me. No, I'm kidding.
Lies.
We took some time off to re-energize ourselves because, quite frankly, we kind of ran out of things to talk about. But anyway, we're back now. The Blazers, they're playing better. Kinda. There's some storylines to get into. We got the trade deadline coming up in a month. So first of all, Craig, how you been? You miss me? I know you did. You're crying and stuff.
I did, and just for the record, I'm more open during the break, and I was trying to get you. My man had to get a dishwasher. He didn't have anybody producing.
Gosh.
Like there was all these excuses. I was ready to go. I was fired up.
Both our podcast producers were in Pasadena for the Rose Bowl for a bit.
I know.
And I actually tried because someone produced our podcast a day before the Rose Bowl. They're like, no. But, I tried. But anyway, look, it's been a minute, but it's more of the same, right? I mean, not much has changed since we last talked other than Deni's picked it up even more. Anfernee, the past 5 games, his best 5-game stretch of the season by far. I think he has 134 points in 5 games, which is his best stretch of the season, and shooting the lights out, by the way. He was 8 for 12 on threes last night. Scoot's still struggling, although he had 2 good games when Bjorkgren was coaching over Chauncey, who sadly was gone to his grandmother's funeral. and Sharpe's looked nice, and Aiden's had some, but they're still losing while occasionally pulling off a somewhat surprising victory. I give them credit for beating Dallas. I give them credit for, taking down the Bucks, taking down Dame. Anfernee Simons is 2-0 against Dame right now because he missed the game they lost last year, and he's 2-0 with game-winning points in both games. And Dame didn't, he struggled in both games. But anyway, there's a lot of different things to talk about. Where do you want to start, Craig? What do you have to say about this team first and foremost?
I will say that Simons, your boy, waking up, big deal. Finally. But there's, clearly there's stuff going on with in his head. That's a lot of losing. The direction of the team. He's made it clear he's not asking for a trade, but he's also not sitting there saying like, this is my team and I'm ready to take it to the, stick with us and lead us back to the playoffs. And it's because when he looks behind him, there's the number 3 overall pick that plays his position. So that part's awkward. But to see him just be Simons was nice. And he's been so much more aggressive. Last night, when they went on a 17-0 run, he was just so aggressive. He's pulling up for 3. Even the end stunk. Let's just be honest. Like, he got picked. They had a chance to tie the game down 3, and he got his pocket picked. Terrible way to end a great game for him. But, this is a guy that he now is up leading the team in scoring after trailing Sharpe for so long. He averaged almost 23 a game last year, and he was, muddling at 17 with terrible shooting. Right. So to see him play well, I'm like, it's about time. Because, it gets weird because it's like people forget who he is. Like, oh, he had 20, he had 20. That's great. I'm like, I thought this guy was going to be scoring 40 on this team. You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't he? And so to see him go out there and shoot the lights out and look like, a dominant scorer that he can be, because he doesn't do other things great, but he had 9 assists last night too and 36 points. Like, that's what you want to see. Because look, the Blazers got to make some. They're gonna, we've talked about clarity, and we're gonna get into Scoot and things. There's no clarity still. It's more muddled to me. You watch him score 36 and Scoot played 19 minutes and had 0 points. Like, what are we doing? Like, what is the team doing? Like, are you trying to trade Simons? Do you think Scoot's going to chill and not play very much and get better? What's the timeline there? And if you're Simons, you could totally understand why his head's kind of in a weird place. Because no one can understand this right now. I mean, like, you drafted Scoot, which pushed Dame out, right? Like, that was the final straw. And you're sitting there going, wait, I know Dame's out, but what about me, right? I'm And then it's kind of said, well, we can Dame CJ the thought. Scoot and Simons. Maybe not in the long term, but we can play this out. We'll have 2 starting guards. We can watch the number 3 overall pick be amazing while you're scoring. Well, that's not it. So, and he now knows they're playing together when one guy can't shoot at all. That's not going to work. So I'm just glad to see that. I love Deni. So 17 turnovers in 2 games is not good. 10 turnovers in 1 game. I say, hey, go big or go home. He got 10. It was an awful game, but he just turned 20. What was it, 23? Or was it 24? His birthday was last week. Can't remember. But Pete, that's the best move that Joe Cronin's done so far, right? I mean, to get this guy.
You think? He gave up a lot.
But hey, at least he plays. Like, he's a future piece. He's in his, he's not yet in his prime. You could see things that he can do that he can get better. He's so fast. He goes hard. He plays hard. He's big. He rebounds. Look, this guy he's at least a piece. You know what I mean? What else? What else has Cronin done? That's a piece. Kamara, you want to put that up there and say you got that thrown in the trade?
You have your blind spot for Deni. I have my blind spot.
What's a better move? It's not the Dame trade. It's not the Scoot draft.
Okay,
right?
We'll get to that.
We got time. But I'm just saying it's a good move.
We'll dissect that in a second. Let's go back to Simons real quick. So here's the deal, and I've been wanting to wait till mid-season before really diving into, okay, what do they have here? What's worth keeping? What's the direction, et cetera, et cetera. I want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt of half a season, and I want to see what Cronin does at the trade deadline. Because we sit here and talk too much about, they should keep this guy, and then Cronin trades the guy you think they should keep. Yep. It just, recalibrates everything. But I think it's obvious at this point that you cannot trade Simons unless you are getting back a huge haul that you just can't look past, and that you have another way in your head of getting another point guard. Because clearly the backcourt of Ant and Shaedon is your backcourt.
Yep.
Period. And Scoot, there's this group of guys, there's like 15 people in this email thread, including someone I used to work with at the Oregonian back in the day. And everyone's talking about the team, and, everyone's got their opinions. And we've been going back and forth about Scoot. And they, a lot of them are talking about, give Scoot time. I agree. You got to give Scoot time. Scoot's going to become better than he is now. I mean, I think that's a given. But I don't see anything that tells me Scoot's going to be an all-star. I don't see anything that tells me Scoot's going to be more impactful than Simons when Simons is on. Obviously, when Simons plays like he did the first month, okay, that's different. But I just don't see it. So if you're a Cronin, you have to be thinking right now that we're going to keep and extend Simons unless there's some deal out there that it's just, I can't turn it down. So for me, if I gave up 2 firsts and Brogdon for Deni, I need to get at least 2 firsts or 3 firsts and a player for Simons. Right. Although the contract situation factors in there, obviously, because Deni's contract is so amazing. Right. But still, I got to get something at least starting at 2 firsts, and you got match salaries and things like that. But is anyone going to do that? Well, maybe. But if someone's willing to do that, right, then they're telling you that this guy's worth having as your lead guard. And so if you don't have a backup plan for your lead guard position, then you might as well just keep Simons. Otherwise, you're going to be chasing another Simons. So to me, I think that situation is done. I don't believe Scoot ever catches Simons and becomes as good as Simons is when Simons is at his best ever.
There are no signs pointing in that direction. And there's no debate at all that Simons is your best player when he's playing as he has for most of his career, right. When he started. The only reason why it was muddled was because he was playing so poorly. But it's not close. You know what I mean? It's not close when everyone's playing at their best, he's their best player.
Right.
I know you love Jeremy Grant, but
He's
not the same level. And to me, Sharpe's not there yet. So trading your best player again without a high return is silly. So I agree.
Wow, we agree. That sucks.
Okay, so we agree on that. We're happy to see Simon's rolling again.
Yes.
And here's the other thing too. I had the stat the other day. They're like 8-6 before last night. I think now they're 8-7 when he scores 21 or more, and they're like 1-14, 1-15 when he scores 20 or less. That's how big of an impact he's had on this team, and he's had some game winners clearly. And yeah, when he and what ultimately, if you can get more dudes around him that draw attention, and then you can't blitz him as much, he would just thrive even more. So that's why it's important to add some impact dudes around him. Okay, Sharpe. Shaedon Sharpe also has been picking up. He had a career high 9 assists. Chauncey talked about using him more in pick and rolls, and because he can play make, and because he is so versatile coming off of that screen, he's picked it up as well. And those two have been pretty potent together. When they're both on, man, it's tough to beat the Blazers because those two, they're scoring 45, 50 at a high rate. They're difficult to beat. So how do you feel about how he's sort of rounding in the shape? You know what? He missed most of camp and he missed all of preseason, right, because of the shoulder injury. And then he had that he missed 8 games or whatever. And he had to sort of get himself back into the flow, and he's killing it.
Yeah, and you talk about like career high 9 assists. You're like, whoa, for a guard, and and that doesn't seem like a big deal, but he averaged less than three assists a game. You know what I mean?
So he's a gunslinging 2 guard. That's huge.
He's not a playmaker. So for him to do that, great. I mean, I like him. He's played better. He still can't shoot from 3 consistently. That's bothersome because you can't be what he wants to be until he starts shooting the 3 consistently. You can say that for a lot of the NBA nowadays. It's hard to go around it, but he's shooting below 30.
He's extremely streaky.
You're being generous because he shoots less than 30%.
Right, I know, but here's the thing: he's not consistently at 30%. Like I see, like I'm looking at his box scores, right? I'm looking at a 5 of 10, a 3 of 6, a 2 of 4, a 2 of 6, and then there's a 1 of 8 and another 1 of 8 and a 1 of 8. There are 3 1 of 8 since December 1, but then he's got these. So if you're 1 of 8 is 12%. So that means clearly you're having some nights where you're raising that up to get to 30. That's what I mean by he's streaky. But yeah, it's not streaky good. Right, it's streaky bad.
But the thing with Shaedon is that he does stuff that you're like, oh, okay. And even on his misses, you're like, okay, he tried that. And he obviously can score around the rim, as athleticism's off the charts. So he has this potential to be better. And the shot looks good. That's the difference when it doesn't look good when he goes 1 for 8. But what I'm saying is his mid-range is nice. So he just has to be better at it. And like you said, he's just had injuries and inconsistencies. Defensively, he's got, still egg-headed moves. But athletically, his potential is to be a really good defender, in my opinion. Because he has, basketball instincts. He can jump out of the gym. He doesn't get, for a young guy who hasn't played a ton of basketball, who's not like, when you look at him, you're not like, oh boy. Like when you look at Scoot, you're like, oh boy, like that guy is built. He doesn't get pushed around. He's not getting physically dominated. He's just sometimes he just makes the wrong play on defense. So, yeah, I think, Sharpe is not an issue. You'd like to see him have, like you always talk about, like, can you give us a run of 10 games where you're shooting 42% from three, averaging 23, and maybe getting 3.5 assists a game. And you're like, okay, that's what I'm looking for. But no one could be watching Sharpe now and say, oh, in 2 years, he can't be averaging 23 a game and being one of the, like, a borderline all-star.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't. Now, is it going to happen? We don't know because he hasn't made that jump yet, but he hasn't done anything but show you potential. So I like it. I just don't fall. I'm not in love yet. I'm just in like with him.
Okay, so here's what I'll say about all of that. So the 3-point shooting has to fix itself, and he's gone down every year. He came in shooting 36%, but on 3.5 attempts. Last season, 5.6 attempts resulted in 33%, and then this year, 6.3 attempts, 29.4%. So he's shooting it more, but not hitting. The only part of his game in that area I don't like is he takes too many threes as if he's really good at it. One thing that dude, seriously, I'm one of these old heads who believe there's just way too much 3-point shooting.
Sure.
And the problem is Steph Curry made it fashionable, but Steph Curry one season took 11 a game and shot 45%.
Yeah.
Which is stupid.
The math works.
Right. It's stupid. So that's why when people always argue who's better, Steph or Dame, I'd be like, it's not close because Dame on 10 a night shooting 36%, 37%. Sure. Now he's taking a lot he's taking a lot.
Still great.
Right. But both of them take highly difficult threes, which lower their percentage. I've watched Dame in the gym literally go around the horn, 50 shots, and maybe miss 2 or 3. With no duress, right? But you add in a step back, and then that lowers your percentage. But
and 7-foot tall people trying to block it,
right.
It's that's hard,
right? But my point is, there's too many bleeping players in the NBA who shoot threes like they're Steph. They think they're Steph. Oh, the shot clock has 16 seconds on it, but I'm gonna do a step back and jack it up. And no one says anything. The coach doesn't say anything. No, it's just par for the course in the NBA, and they're shooting 34%. It drives me bananas. Sharpe does that sometimes. Yeah. There are some times when early in the shot clock, he's jacking up a three like he's a really good 3-point shooter. And to me, that's not learning how to be a good basketball player. That's creating bad habits. You know you're not a good 3-point shooter right now. So let's just settle for the ones when it comes back to you and you're wide open. Fine, shoot that one. But I want to see you taking the ball to the basket or just give it up, not jack up that three. So that's the only thing I don't like. That being said, on 2-pointers, he's shooting 57%, which is better than last year when he was at 46%, and even his rookie year when he was at 56%. So, like you said, his mid-range game is pretty nice.
It's nice.
Right? And, of course, when he gets to the basket, the stuff he does around the basket is just ridiculous. So I would like to see him cut those threes from 6 to 4, right? Until he shows he can make them and get to the rack more often, or just give up the ball. And maybe the 9 assists, maybe that's a sign. I mean, he's averaging 2.7 on the season. Maybe he's going to start averaging 4 because he's giving up the ball a little bit more in those situations. So that's my other thing. But the talent just jumps out. Yeah. Right? It just, he does things where you're like, wow. Okay, that's a bad shot. Okay, but wow, right? And so that's why, to me, him and Ant are they're the backcourt. And you would hope that Ant at 27, Shaedon at 23, that's when they really start to blossom, along with Cooper Flag and Deni and Kling. And then, boom, you got yourself a team that can get into the playoffs. Okay, so that's my spiel on Sharpe.
While everything you said is true, the reason why it doesn't bother me so much is because I think that when him taking so many threes is – he's going to take those threes eventually when he's hopefully at that level. So take them till you make them, in a way, because it's a rebuilding year. Not supposed to,
I know.
I understand why it drives you nuts.
It's just the bad habits. It's just, and it's not just him. It's around the NBA. It's just drives me.
It is an NBA thing. But the other issue, the part that I counter with is there's sometimes when he gives up the ball, and it drives me nuts.
Because you want him to be more aggressive.
Go, dude. Like, you're better than that.
Don't give it to the guy you're better than.
I don't, like, no.
But I like smart basketball. See, to me, you're building better habits so that eventually down the line, the guy you give it up to is capable of making a play. And you're used to doing that.
They all, great young players, screw up by missing shots, early in their careers a lot. And then they get better at it. So, I mean, if you want him to be Ant Edwards, right, which is what we look at and say, that'd be nice, right? Athleticism, ability. It's like that guy, same thing when he came in the league, and now he's better. John Morant, he couldn't shoot a three for the life of him. Still not a great 3-point shooter, but better. And so that's what I look at when I see him. I'm like, I'd rather you be aggressive and shoot rather than give it up, because all you hear is the coaching staff say, we keep telling him, go, take over. And I'm down with that, because other than Simons, who had struggled but has done it lately, there's no one else on this team that can do that. So, and I just got to say this, and I love Lamar Hurd, and I just want to let that out. But if I hear one more time how he and Anfernee Simons are the two of the top 10 most clutch players in the NBA in the last 5 minutes, I just stop. Stop. He's not there yet.
You disagree?
Saying, that's when analytics and data is not giving you the full picture. Look at the win total, so where are we with that? So I'm just saying, he's not there yet, but he could be. And I want him to feel good about it. But that does show something. It shows that when the pressure is heightened, he's better. So I just want to see more. I don't care if Shaedon takes 30 shots and makes 10 in a game. I'm like, okay, that's what stars do eventually, sometimes. Right. And you got to get there. And there's no one else I want shooting it other than, on the team. It's not like I'm like, I love Deni, but I'm like, hey, dude, 30 shots might, no, no thanks. And I don't need to see, Grant do it, or I certainly don't need Scoot to do it. So I'd rather him do it.
All right. Speaking of your boy, Deni, there's no one on the team that I want to have the ball on a fast break more than that guy. Because he does what we were told Scoot was going to do. Go. He gets the ball, and he is gone. And dude has speed. He's fast. I can see him playing some wide receiver in the NFL. And he's aggressive, and he attacks. Doesn't finish at the rim as well as you would hope.
So much better.
But he's gotten better. He's gotten better. Definitely willing to give up the ball, right? Yeah. So go ahead.
Good vision, too.
Rave about your boy, who also has been a little streaky. I'm looking at him, 1 of 7 on threes. But he came back from one of 7. Prior to that, he was 3 for 6, 3 for 5. And after the 1 of 7, he was 2 for 4, 2 for 4. So he's been a lot more consistent, clearly, lately after a horrid start from outside. But yeah, tell me about your dude. Who? Hold on. Since December 1, is shooting 40% on threes, 53% from the field for 17.6 rebounds, 3 assists, but 3 turnovers.
Yeah, he turns the ball over because he's going 100 miles an hour. And every once in a while, he thinks he can do something he can't. But there's two things that you're looking for in young players. Sometimes effort and athleticism.
There you go. Sure.
And he's got both.
He does.
And he's big. He's got the size. I just love how he's playing. And I love that he's always trying. Down 10, up 10. He doesn't stop.
No. And
he's got attitude too. He thinks he's good. He doesn't mind doing the double point figures, getting the weakest technical of the year.
Or hanging on the rim, swinging from it.
Well, boom, show me that. And he can jump and he can rebound. And like you said, when he gets it, they call him Turbo. And no one's like, I wonder why they call him Turbo. It's rather obvious. Yeah. He is so lightning fast to the rim. And you're right. He's still not a consistent shooter. I don't know if he'll ever be. But the thing about Deni is you're not expecting – for Sharpe, you want superstardom, right? You want all-star stardom. With Deni, you're like, be a contributor. If anything above that is great. Now, they did give up a lot. But I see a 23-year-old or 24-year-old young guy who is not afraid of the moment and is doing things that the Blazers have not had a wing to do much for a long time.
Right.
Like Nick Batum, that was the last time they had a wing that you would be like, oh, he can play defense, he can rebound, he can score.
Run the floor.
Yeah, and his vision's great. Now, last night they needed a shot, and he almost airballed it. That's not good, but the team's not good yet. And on a good team, the other thing I like is he knows. So he's in the game when Simons and Sharpe are in the game. He doesn't take their shots away.
Right.
You're not like, what are you doing? Like, he took that shot because that was it. They gave him that. The time was running down. He needed to take the shot, and he missed it. But, he scored 14 last night because he got out the way. He's like, okay, I know. And he could do other things. He doesn't have to score. And then at other times when he was the hottest guy on the floor, he made it happen. So I've really enjoyed watching him, which is also a big thing on a team like this. Like, who do you want to see? And I want to see him get out and run. And it's a lot more exciting than, as you said, than missed 3-pointers. I could, and he doesn't, when he misses, he sometimes goes and tries to get the rebound. He'll foul the guy running over him. But I like that. That move looks good to me. That contract is great. And he's a fit on a young team that's not trying to get a lot of wins, right? If he was on a playoff team right now, he might not be in the fourth quarter because of those turnovers. But now you're like, yeah, go for it, man. Get better.
He's super young, too. This is his 5th season, but he's only 23, right?
Yeah, he just had his birthday. I can't remember.
That's right. That's some birthday. Happy birthday to him. He's just turned 24. Yeah, so he's still a puppy as well. Okay, so what's next on the rundown? I can't see it right now. It's blocked, so I can't get back to it.
Well, we're going to trade deadline.
Oh, yeah, a month away. I actually want to post something today. There's no real information out there to really talk about, but just speculative. We already talked about Ant. I don't think they're going to trade Ant. I think they're going to keep Ant. I think anyone out there who thinks they should trade Ant to clear the way for Scoot, I think it's just living in fantasy land. You bought into the hype, and the hype just wasn't real.
There's no backup plan once you do that. I mean, that's all gas, no brake. I mean, that's like saying, okay, we haven't seen anything that lets us think that this guy is what we thought he was when we drafted him. But we're going to go for it anyway and trade our best player. Yeah. I mean, at some point in time, I know we don't know where ownership is, but at some point in time, someone's got to say, he's our best player. And we can't just trade him away for what? For picks that we're going to go and do what with?
Right.
So I agree with that. So it's whether or not you give up on Scoot, which doesn't make sense yet either.
Anyway, Cronin did a 17-minute interview with Calabro prior to a recent game. And it was one of those interviews where I'm watching it screaming follow-up questions.
Right.
I want to call Calabro. Ask him about this.
But you don't work for the team. He does.
Right, exactly. So I'm not going to get into everything he said because everything he said is what I think you'd expect a GM to say at this point. But he was asked about trades, and he said pretty much what he's said before, that they're going to be aggressive in terms of looking at things, but they're not going to make deals just to make deals. He kind of likes where they are with everything. And, to me, that means he made it clear he likes the progress overall. He wants to reduce the blowouts. I think they've lost by 20 or more 9 or 10 times already, whereas I think last year it was 14. So, but they've looked better overall. It's weird. But he likes the development of Tamani. He loves what Deni's doing. He still has hope, for Scoot. Scoot's playing the toughest position in sports. He likes what Shaedon's doing and Klingon, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, we all know that this roster needs major upgrades in talent and moves. And he's talked about how making trades is going to be how they're going to upgrade the talent and, getting high draft picks. So, I don't disagree with what he's saying necessarily, because I do believe that the pieces that they would like to move are going to be tough to move, especially with Grant playing so poorly. But I think if someone gives you contracts back that aren't horrible and you get a first out of it, I think if you do it, not just for yourself, but for Jeremy. Jeremy doesn't want to keep getting his ass kicked. all the time.
No, it's probably why he's not playing well.
He's 30 years old, and I have no doubt that he would prefer to be somewhere playing substantial minutes for a winning team. I don't know if they can move Ayton. He's got 1 year left on his deal at $36 million next year. That's going to be tough for anyone to take on, because I don't think anyone's going to view him as a key missing piece in the starting lineup. They might view him as a good depth, but you're not going to get someone at $36 million coming off the bench. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him next summer. But, the only thing I would really like to see happen for both parties is that they're able to move Grant. But I do not think Simons is going to get traded.
So I think they got to just trade Grant and Williams. I mean, it doesn't make sense not to. And I know you say, well, you got to get a lot. Well, no, why? Get what you can get. I mean, honestly, what are you waiting for?
We have to define a lot. But
I'm just saying, like, there's a point in which you're like, we just watched a stretch of 3 games where on the road, where they lost to the Lakers in a fun game, battled them, beat Milwaukee in Milwaukee, and then played a fun game and lost to Detroit at Detroit. And Jeremy Grant and Williams didn't play. And we enjoyed watching that. And we enjoyed watching Deni, and we enjoyed watching Simons play, and we enjoyed watching Klingon play. And what's the point of playing these two guys that have no future with your team? And when you say, well, you can't just give them away. Well, I'm not saying, obviously you can't. The league doesn't allow it. You got to get contracts back. You got to get things back.
What would you accept?
I mean, honestly, of course I'd take a first for either one of them in a heartbeat of any kind, a first of any kind. Because I'm not moving forward with them. All Jeremy Grant is a big contract that I cannot that's just going to get, it is going to get more attractive to teams. That's the one thing. Like you could say, well, when he's less years, he'll be more attracted to teams because they're going to dump. But okay, but
he's also going to get older, but yeah.
Right. And he'll get worse if he keeps playing with this team and the way he's playing. And you want to play Deni, right? And even Murray last night, which I do, he had a nice game. I'm not getting too excited about 11 points for a first-round draft pick in a game, but I'd rather see him play at this point to see, is there something there? Is he a lottery pick, Mr. Cronin? Because you said you had a lottery grade on him when you picked him, in the 20s. So, and Williams is not play. He didn't play, not hurt, didn't play. So to me, they could say whatever they want. The only reason not to play Williams on this team is because you don't want him to get hurt. Because he's better. He's better than Klingon now. He is. I mean, we all know that.
Well, okay, go ahead. Keep on.
Right? Is he better?
Oh, yeah.
So you're not playing him because you want Klingon to play, and you know that Robert Williams isn't on your team in 3 years for sure, and odds of him being on your team next year are low, and him playing doesn't help your goal, which is to lose games and get younger players out on the court. And you already got Ayton, which if you move Ayton for anything, that's a great move. But no one's going to pay that money for him, for an expiring contract. Like, what team wants a center right now? You know what I mean? Like, that's decent. I don't see it. I mean, Nurkic just got benched. Maybe Phoenix wants him back. I just say, like, who's like, you know what the key to us winning a title is? DeAndre Ayton. I just don't see it. Now, I could see a team, and I don't know how it works, but, the Bucks could want a Grant, or, there's teams that could want a Grant because he plays 2 positions, plays defense, doesn't need the ball, can score. So there's a potential to trade him. Williams, too. I mean, the Knicks could use Williams. I mean, he's a guy who could play defense. They don't need him to score. He can rebound and block shots. If Mitch Robinson can't make it back, they're looking for a title. Can they make that work? I don't know. Because, but I'm just saying there's teams that could use those. I don't see Ayton being able to be moved. But I would do everything I can to not sit on these players, to have them sit there and hope they don't get hurt.
Right.
Right?
I don't disagree, man. You need assets, and Grant's not going to be on. So Grant has 2 years after this year, and then a player option.
Right.
You are probably at least so going to be lottery this year. I think even if they got Cooper Flag, I think they're lottery next year, and then maybe if everything clicks in right, you can get into the postseason the next year. So that would be 27. So that would actually be the last year on Grant's contract, and then he could opt out that summer. It just makes no sense because if you have Deni, Tumani, and Cooper Flag,
or whoever you get,
or Ace Bailey, right? They're going to be ahead of Grant at that point, I would imagine. So yeah, Grant's got to go. If you can get one first, and not take back horrible contracts, I don't see why you don't make that happen right away. But what if no one will give you a first? Then you got to hold out until the offseason, until next trade deadline. I don't think you just move them for seconds, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, $30 million for a 30-year-old player. You signed to a 5-year contract worth $160 million. This is where.
Anyway.
What's that?
I mean, you have to pay someone that money anyway.
Right, but you'd like to pay a guy that either is going to play for you or you could trade. And if he's neither, it's a bad contract. I know that eventually you got to spend the money, but at this point in time, he's not playing well enough to move him on a high side. And my thing is, if you can't get a first-round draft pick for him now, it's not. I don't know. Will it get easier? I'm not sure. And at what point are you just holding out for something that you're not going to get? I mean, we all thought that's what they were doing with Brogdon, and what did that end up being?
Dope. All right, let's. You read the Ringer article on the least improved players.
Yeah,
in the NBA.
I sent it to you,
and he sent it to me, and I whipped through it. And in there is Halliburton, by the way, who was a really good player, but is having a down year. And our very own Scoot Henderson. So why don't you recap what they said about
Oh, you gonna make me read this?
Yeah, I'm gonna make you read it. I gotta cover that.
Oh, it's harsh, man. So this is just from the Ringer. Scoot Henderson. It's hard to be the most disappointing player in your draft class 2 years in a row, but despite expectations taking a downward turn after his abysmal rookie season, Henderson has somehow done it. He isn't worse per se, but it's hard to go lower when you're already in the basement. And that's the first paragraph. So that's harsh. I mean, there's no silver lining in that. And it gets into talking about his shooting and how broken that is. And then they break down how under pressure, he does not do well distributing the ball. It's hard to argue with anything they're saying. I wouldn't be that harsh because I would. But the caveat is 20. Like, that's what you do. But he's 20. That's your only hope. But it's not what they're saying is like ridiculous. You're like, oh, you're crazy. That's not true. And last night in that fun game that they did blow a 22-point lead, which I forgot about by the end of the game because I was enjoying it so much. And you had to remind me in your headline. He was terrible. He played 19 minutes and didn't score a point. So let me ask you this though: what do you make of the 2 games he had when Chauncey was out? There were fans out there talking about, see, Chauncey's holding him back. Look how freely he's playing. Blah 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 blah. Was that just a fluke, or did he? Yeah. Okay. I mean, they played bad teams, teams with hurt players and a really bad team. And his game winner was great, but it's where he could shoot between 12 and 15 feet. Like, that's it. He's got that turnaround in the lane from 12 to 15 feet where he shoots like 56%. And at the rim, he shoots terribly. And from 3, he shoots terribly. He's got this small window of place where he's really good. And that's where that game winner came. And it was nice that he made it. And I was glad. And I'm glad when he plays well. I'm glad when I see him. He makes some passes where you're like, oh, no. Oh, that's good. You saw that. But then he goes to the hole, and you're like, what was that mess? You know, he gets blocked at the rim. He sometimes doesn't get shots off. And as you mentioned, like the explosiveness that he was drafted number 3 for, the reason why the Blazers drafted him number 3, knowing what it would cause, the dominoes that it would cause for Damian Lillard. They thought they had a replacement for Damian Lillard. They thought they were drafting a player that was not just potentially as good as Damian Lillard, but that was better than Simons. Because you don't do that. You don't do that if you don't. You're not like, well, you know, we're going to train Dame, but we're going to keep Dame and we have Simons, but we really need a third-string point guard on our team with the 3rd overall pick. Like, some stuff is common sense where you just have to look at a situation and say, they drafted a point guard 3rd overall. They didn't trade the pick. They didn't move, they didn't move down. They didn't get a player. They decided we have Damian Lillard and we have Anfernee Simons, but we think that we're going to draft Scoot Henderson, who plays the same position as 2 of our best players, because they thought he was going to be transcendent. And you think that because you look at a 19-year-old who's already got an NBA body and who you have scouted to say athletically is beyond gifted.
Right.
And we do not see that. We don't see the Shannon. We don't see the Sharpe moments. The Shaedon Sharpe, like, oh, he tried to dunk on those 3 guys. That's hysterical. But he almost did it, right? You don't see a move at the rim where he goes up and over people. You see him shooting from below the rim.
Right.
His most impressive layups are from below the rim, where he's doing Mark Jackson spin stuff, because he can't Rayon Rondo stuff, like where you're like, oh, look at that. How did he figure out how to get there? But he's below the rim, not above it, right? So I'm alarmed.
Yeah, it is alarming. All right, let's end on this. Reportedly, Zion Williamson is on the block. Would you trade for him?
Yeah.
I would too. I wouldn't hesitate.
Why not? It's a lottery pick.
Especially when his contract is so friendly.
Yeah.
There's so many incentives in there and things benchmarks he has to reach because it's not fully guaranteed. Now, the question, though, is that
you thought I was going to say no. I saw your face.
I wasn't sure. But I kind of leaned towards you saying yes. But the next question is, what do you give up? Right? Are you going to give up a package with Sharpe and stuff? No, exactly. See, that's the thing. So if I can give him a future first and Scoot and Grant, or Scoot and Ayton to match those salaries up, I think
basically,
he makes 36.
Take Sharpe off the table, and then
Sharpe and Ant.
Yeah, I would even lean towards Ant. I get it, but you're looking at.
I wouldn't do Ant. The availability is scary. He played 70 games last year, but the hamstring he's had twice now.
It's terrible.
Factor,
it's
right?
terrible.
So I don't know because here's the thing. I'm thinking if you can move Grant, Scoot, a pick or whatever, or Ayton, right? You have and he can play 65 games, 60 or 65, which is not. He played 70 last year, like I said. You're going to be good.
Yeah, because he's amazing.
Because when he's on,
when he plays, he what you do when he plays, you go, oh wow,
exactly.
Oh wow,
a lot. So Ant, Sharpe, Kamara, or Deni, and Ayton with Klingon and Williams. You have to sit some dudes out because you might play your way within striking distance of the play-in. So you got to finesse it this year, get Cooper Flag, and then you come back next year. Woo! Now you're rolling. But yeah, I would do it
absolutely
easily. And maybe I'm crazy, but to me, a talent like that, you roll the dice because I don't know when you're going to see a dude like that. No. Don't tell Cooper might be on that level. I don't know. We'll see. But I would absolutely roll the dice on that. I want my Bulls to do it.
Yeah, you win with superstars in this league. And if healthy, he's 24. years old. So it's not over yet. And when he's played one full season, really, when he played 70 games. And I mean, he's averages in the league when he plays 25 a game. And not just that, he averages 25, 7, and 4. And he blocks, last year he averaged 23, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and over a block a game.
Yeah.
He shoots decently from 3 and ridiculously from 2. And nothing on the court when he plays has showed you that he's not what people thought he was. He just can't stay on the court. But I would do it, because what are you giving up? All those things you said, I don't care about. I care that Scoot might be good, but I'm not banking on it. And I'm trading the number 3 disappointing player who statistically, when on the court, has not played well, for the number 1 overall pick that when plays, you're like, oh, wow, that guy's amazing.
Right. When I watched them play last year, they had him playing point forward a lot. He's coming up the court. If he has a big guy on him, he's dribbling right by him.
Bye-bye.
If he has a small guy on him, I mean, come on, he's, get the dribble by him and back in down there. And he has great vision, and he gives up the rock. He finds open shooters. And he's unstoppable inside by anyone from a physical standpoint, not just because he's big, but his leaping ability, his body control, his touch off the glass. Now, this year he got off to a poor shooting start, shooting 45%, career 59%.
He played 6 games.
Yeah, exactly. He was just rusty. I mean, people could be rusty, but he was still averaging 23 and 5 and 8.
And 8.
Yeah. But it's scary because Zion's name came up last year, during trade, or 2023, during trade talks in and around the number 3 pick. And what I was told was that the Pelicans wanted Sharpe, the number 3 pick, and Nurkic. And the Blazers balked. But part of the reason they balked was because, 1, injury problems, and 2, they thought Scoot was going to be Derrick Rose. So in their mind, they're giving up Derrick Rose, Devin Booker, right? And I can't remember the other person I said, but anyway.
No, I mean, Sharpe's the only guy you're like, well, no, I don't want to be on that end
because of the body, because of the injury problems. If there's no injury problems, I would do that trade in a nanosecond.
Of course, but I'm just saying, like, you don't want to be the guy that trades an all-star for a guy who never plays.
Exactly.
So.
But it seems like
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not like if they offered that, I wouldn't go, let me think about it. It's not like a no. It's not like absolutely not. I'm not doing that.
At the time, though, if you thought Scoot was going to become...
Oh, I would have said no to that in a heartbeat, of course.
Exactly.
You're telling me you telling me Scoot is good enough that you're willing to move off of Damian Lillard and Anfernee Simons.
Right.
I mean, they can say whatever they want. That I've said that, me, I preached it the day they picked him.
100%, that's what they said.
You could say whatever you want, but you have made a decision that's going to push Damian Lillard out, and you have told Anfernee Simons you think this guy has a better chance of leading this franchise to a championship than you.
Exactly.
Because they all play the same position. There's not the size differences. There is no size difference. So,
and you could never make the argument that, we're going to play Scoot and Anfernee together.
Not well.
So then what do you do with Sharpe?
Right.
So the whole thing, the whole thing was what it was. You couldn't spin it. Yeah, they tried.
I mean, other than you could tell us that what you told us before about why you moved CJ, well, we were wrong about that. Like, you'd have to say, now I'm not one to, I think it's really difficult to win with 2 small guards, but I was never one like you are to say it's absolutely out of the question, because I'm always like, who are my other 3? If my 3 is Kevin Durant, I can win.
It's tough. My thing has always been, if you have 2 small guards and your best 2 players, it's only happened once in history.
Yes,
and that was Isaiah and Dumars, and they were backed by the greatest defensive frontcourt ever.
And you need to score 90 to win.
Right. But if you have 2 small guards now, you have, Banchero and it's Banchero, right? I always want to say Banchero. It's Banchero?
Yeah.
Whatever. Sorry. Anyway, and Tatum, Pablo, and Tatum, right? And, Wemby, you're going to win the title with, Scoot and Anfernee in the backcourt. You're going to win the title with Wemby. So, but you can't put that type of team together. But anyway, okay, so we agree. We would both roll the dice on Zion and the right deal. Hey, man, trade deadline's coming up. We'll see what happens. We'll talk more about that in the future. But hey, nice talking to you again. Thanks for not hiding out from me and trying to duck me like you were. Appreciate it. But we'll be back soon, sooner rather than later, with another episode of the Lizard Focus Podcast.